My guest at this time is the #1 contender for the Ring of Honor World Heavyweight Championship. You're getting your first title chance in over a decade tonight against Matt Taven. How's it feel, Alex?
Oh, man. You had to say over a decade, didn't you?
It's true, though.
Who's the last person I wrote? Daniel Bryan.
It was Bryan Danielson.
Bryan Danielson, sure.
Yeah. How does it feel 10 years later now to be getting another opportunity like this?
Awesome. The company's obviously changed quite a bit. High stakes, right? I'd be lying if I said I wasn't a little nervous. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But it's good to be nervous, too, right? It just means you're aware of the situation. Kind of that standing on the edge of a building type sublime feeling, right?
Yeah, well, the last two, if I did my research correct, last two times you had title opportunities. You had Bryan Danielson, and you also had Austin Aries. Now, those are big names in the world of pro wrestling. They've both gone on to do amazing things. How do you think Matt Taven stacks up against Danielson and Aries?
I think he's awesome in his own way. I think all three of those are very different competitors, so to compare them would be doing somebody an injustice. I've said this a lot in interviews about Matt Taven specifically, but I feel like he has mirrored my own career in a lot of ways, or we've at least been a lot of the same places, as it were, and I have honestly the utmost respect for him. He's worked really hard, right? Like, he's had to eat a lot of shit, and he came up in wrestling the same way I did, and the same way a lot of guys in my generation did, and for that I give him a lot of credit, so kudos to him.
Well, very cool. You've come back now to Ring of Honor. You're obviously in the singles title picture here. You have a chance to go for the World Championship, but you're so synonymous with tag team wrestling. The Motor City Machine Guns, huge part of making me a wrestling fan when I was coming into wrestling here. I mean,
you're coming into wrestling in your mid-20s, right?
I mean, I was
not dated too bad.
Well, I mean, it's like you're a kid, right? And like you grew up and you love Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, right? But then you start to get older and you start to find more wrestling outside of it. You guys were definitely one of those teams that did that for me. So after, I mean, you could become champion too, but do you also have plans on maybe doing some tag team wrestling here in Ring of Honor?
Oh, I would love to do tag team wrestling. I love tag team wrestling. I think part of the reason I was good at it and part of the reason I did it for so long is because I enjoyed doing it. As a subset of pro wrestling, it's just very unique in its own way. It's its own art form. And I've been lucky enough to have like 2 really incredible partners, 3 really, honestly, if we're counting Jimmy Wraith. And Abyss was up there too, so 4. I could start naming more people. 5, Kevin Nash, and I've picked the brains of all these guys, and they all made me better along the way too.
You brought up Kevin Nash. Yep. I have to ask you about Paparazzi Productions, which I really thought was like one of the greatest things of all time. You're here in Ring of Honor. Is there a chance you bring Paparazzi Productions maybe with you to Ring of Honor?
I would love to. I would love to have a Paparazzi Championship Series here. There's been a couple guys where it's like, damn, I would love to do something with them. Yeah. And I think what was cool about that, too, is you got to see a side of guys that maybe you didn't know existed. But having people around you who make you comfortable, help you kind of express who you truly are because you feel safe, right? Yeah. You feel safe being yourself, and Nash was really good at that. So for he and I, we had the same sense of humor, grew up in a similar area. We had a lot of ties that bound, as it were. For everybody else, I think they kind of realized that we had that bond, and they could be included in that too, and it was just fun to do. Yeah. So, and that's a key. People can tell when you're having fun.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you may not have been having as much fun about a year ago when you decided to walk away from pro wrestling. Walk me through a little bit what led to your decision. I mean, you're still young, man. 17 years in the business. You're only 36?
36 just turned. Yeah.
Yeah. So, talk to me a little bit about why you decided to step away at such a young age.
To be fair, it was all orchestrated a few years back. I am a physical therapist assistant. That's a 4-year medical program that you have to be involved in. This is my second 4-year degree. I was pursuing a master's degree in business at the time, too. And I decided to deviate my course a little bit, alter my path. And in doing so, looking forward to the future, which I try not to do too much now because, plans can change. If you're emotionally attached to A and B happens, then you could be disappointed. But at the same time, there's something to be said for foresight in terms of logistics. The logistics of this situation were that had I gotten accepted into my program, which I did, in 2018, I would spend a good amount of time doing clinical rotations. Now, for those of you who aren't aware of what that is, that's working in the medical field. Okay. You basically pay your university fees, and they set you up with whatever your discipline is, and you work there for 3 months, 6 months, whatever the case may be. You do a few of those usually to get kind of a taste for things or develop your skill set with different patient populations, different settings. And I knew full well that that was going to be my reality if I got accepted in my program when I signed my Ring of Honor contract in 2016.
Okay.
So I signed a 2-year deal, kind of forecasting that, man, this is potentially going to be it for me too. And it wasn't an easy decision because at the time there were a lot of things going on in wrestling, as there are now, and I kind of had to figure out like what path I wanted to pursue, and there's no wrong path. All of them would have been good in their own way. Like, do I want to go work for this bigger company, or do I want to go back to New Japan, or do I want to pursue this medical degree? And it's not a decision I took lightly, but it's the one I made and I stuck with, and I finished it out.
Yeah, well, Ring of Honor does have a great relationship with New Japan Pro Wrestling. It's not like it's out of the question for you to go over there. I just saw Gresham. I think he's going to be in the best of the Super J Cup tournament or whatever like that coming up here pretty soon.
Just combined their two.
I know. I'm sorry. I wish I'd have nailed that, but I screwed it up. The Super J Cup, right?
He's in the Super J Cup this year.
Not the best of the Super Junior.
Which he was in, though.
I was about to say, I knew in my head I was thinking too many things. Like, is that something you want to do here with that opportunity open from Ring of Honor?
I would love to. And one of the things that made me want to come back to Ring of Honor, and it was a multifactorial decision, no doubt about it, but it was a relationship with New Japan, if I'm being transparent. I consider myself a friend of New Japan. I certainly hope New Japan does too. I've had these interesting relationships with a lot of their top stars over the years where I've lived with or hosted or helped train a handful of them, helped them with their current gimmicks to some extent. And my fingerprints are on their roster. I just don't think a lot of people would ever examine it that closely.
Who are some of the people you feel like you've got your fingerprints on that you would like to take a little credit for?
Sure. So it's not me taking credit.
Okay.
Let's clear that up because they did the work. I can help them as much as I possibly can, but ultimately it's them. I'm not in there having the matches for them. I'm not with them doing the media appearances. Like, it is their hard work and their credit. I did have Jay White live with me for about a year and a half.
Really?
Yeah, he lived with me in Detroit when he did his excursion in Ring of Honor.
Okay, cool. Very cool, man.
In my guest room. With myself and my ex-wife. Okada and I were very, very close. So when he first got sent to Orlando for TNA many years ago, I emailed the office and I said, look, I know this guy because I'd actually wrestled him before he ever got into New Japan. I said, if you need somebody to take care of him, I'm your guy. Okay. So I would help him as much as I could because, being a stranger in a strange land, that's hard, right? That it was a relationship that was, I don't want to say symbiotic, but mutual. Like, he had an apartment. I would stay there with him whenever I was in Orlando, and we were really, really, really tight, and still are, At the same time, who else would be on that list? Shochan Yohei, Roppongi 3K. They were just starting out. Like, they hadn't had matches yet when I signed my contract with New Japan in 2012, and I lived at the dojo. So I got to see them kind of develop over the years, and then, they'd ask for help, and if I could help them, I would, and they'd help me too. Like, everybody that I'm saying I helped me just as much. So there's probably more situations I can think of, but I just drawn a blank. Those are probably the top 4, though, yeah.
What do you think about them putting the rocket on Jay White, though? I mean, like, this guy came in and they put the title on him at such a young age. What do you think of the way he's carried himself and been promoted?
I can't think of somebody who worked harder. Like, this guy would literally, like, cook his dinner in my kitchen and then eat dinner for an hour while watching whatever matches. He really put the time in. He put the work in. He deserves every iota of it. He loves pro wrestling. He's one of my best friends. He's like my little brother.
You going to join Bullet Club? Is that what you're getting at? Is this like the slow ride into Bullet Clubdom?
I think that's his call.
Oh, okay. Are you interested?
I don't know. In working with Jay, most certainly, yes, okay. Absolutely I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you would, if you were given the invitation, be interested in a Bullet Club?
Jay White's Bullet Club?
Sure, Jay White's Bullet Club.
Yeah.
Okay.
Of course. It'd be foolish not to.
Yeah, it would be very foolish not to. I agree. Yep. All right, I'll wrap it up here, Alex. I want to ask you, you obviously were such a fundamental part in the early days of Ring of Honor when it was really getting hot there. You're back now. How does the roster and the feel of Ring of Honor compare to some of your earlier runs with the company?
It's totally different. And I feel like I've popped in over the years at very unique times.
Sure.
I debuted here in 2003.
Yeah.
I believe. And I would come back. I think we came back first, me and Saban, in 2006, 2007, and then 2008, and then 2010. Like, we got to see a lot of changes, I've seen Gabe. I've seen Pierce. I've seen the different bookers. I've seen the different regimes. And quite frankly, I think the one thing that kind of defines this company in particular is, for better or worse, it springboards a lot of guys, right? So less so now. Like now it is an endpoint for some guys, which I think is cool if that's what's going to make them happy. The struggle of the people in charge, though, is that some of these guys just aren't here for too long. I think from a fan perspective, though, that's in their best interest, because what you get to see is a development and the maturation of these guys who go on to become superstars across the world. Yeah. And a lot of their early moments.
Sorry, food delivery here.
Thank you.
For Alex Shelley.
Yeah. A lot of the reason that these guys get picked up by other companies or get the spotlight put on them is because of the things that they do here.
Yeah.
And they have the freedom to do that here, and they have the capacity to do it here. They have the potential to kind of express themselves in that manner. And you really can't ask for anything more than that. Like, to see the growth of everything is very, very unique to this company in particular. I think maybe more so than a lot of the other ones.
Cool. Well, thank you very much again, Alex Shelley. You're taking on Matt Taven tonight. Best of luck out there. Anything else you want to plug, promote, put over here before we wrap it up?
I have a Twitter. Can I do that?
Sure. Go.
Is that okay?
Do whatever you want, man.
Yeah. I need to change the name, maybe. I don't know.
Wait, you have the weird one where it's like fake Kincaid, or no, not fake. Yeah, okay.
Kincaid. Kincaid was a artist, right? So like a Kincaid would be like a type of painting, right? It was just a song I was listening to.
Yeah, man, I can never tag you. It's always very difficult for me to tag you.
Yeah, I should really change it if I'm going to promote my own brand. What happened was I had a flight delay in Orlando, and I remember this very vividly. And I was like, I guess I should set up a Twitter. Like, this was like 2012, I think, February 2012. I remember it very, very vividly. Okay. And I was texting, not to like drop too many names in this interview, but these are guys that I know or I still talk to. And Johnny Gargano was like, oh man, if you have the time, you should make a Twitter. I was like, oh, I don't know what to use for my username. He goes, oh, it could be anything. I was like, So I tried a couple and they were all taken. And then I was like, this one's fine for now.
Sure.
And now it's not changed. And I almost feel like dirty changing it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
So.
All right, well, there we go. That was quite a plug there to close up the interview, I think. Just a little rambly session about Fake Kincaid.
Fake Kincaid. Little anecdote about how it came to be. Right. Yep.
Great. All right, we'll wrap it there. Cool. Thanks, man. Thanks, dude. Really appreciate that. It was great to finally get to chat with you, man.
Hey, thanks, man. I appreciate it.